Hello everyone. In the previous video we studied how to find the speed and how to find the wave speed by using the wavelength and the wave period. Okay. We want to continue talking about how to find the wave speed, how to find the wavelength by using the frequency. How can we talk about this? You know that the frequency, we took it before, if we remember, which is the inverse of wave period. You remember when we took this one, we said, just to remind you, frequency equals 1 over what? Over period. You remember this one? This equation, this formula, we took it at the beginning. And the unit to find the frequency, which is hertz, you remember? And we said if the period, for example, is 5, the frequency, which is 1 over 5 hertz. How now to make a relationship or to make another formula to find the speed? We said for wave speed it equals what? Wavelength over what? Let's just remind you. Wave speed equals what? Equals wavelength over what? Over wave period. When I say period or wave period, the same, okay guys? So here, this is what we took. Since the frequency, which is the inverse of a period, so we can use another formula to find the wave speed from this the previous formula. We can say wave speed equals what? Equals frequency times what? Wavelength. How did I find this, or how did I write this formula? We said before as the frequency, which is the inverse, like, and here for this one, if I want to write it in another way, wavelength, I'm going to write it by using this. So I can write it like this: wavelength times what? Times 1 over, sorry for this, 1 over frequency, 1 over period, right? Which is the same. Instead of writing 1 over period, I can write what? Which is the frequency. So this is the formula here that I got at the end, which is what? Which is wave speed, frequency times wavelength, and the frequency, which is 1 over period. Wave speed also I can use wavelength over wave period. When can I use this? When can I use this formula? Actually, it depends on the given information in the question. Now I'll give you like how to solve it. We'll take different examples. Then the last thing about the wavelength, how to find the wavelength. How to find the wavelength? Wavelength from the previous formula, wavelength equals wave speed over frequency. You have to memorize all of these formulas, okay? Okay, so here I'm going to write the line. So wave speed is equal what? To what? Wavelength is equal to wave speed over frequency. So till now we took all of these equations. Depending on these equations, we are going to solve different questions. Now you have to memorize these formulas to be able to solve the questions. Now, I'll give you examples depending on these formulas that we took, okay? And we will start solving the questions. I'll give you examples. Let's start with the first example. Example number 1. For example number 1 here, so let's take this example. Example number 1. Wait a little bit for this. Example number 1, find the wave speed if the frequency is 25 hertz, okay, and the wavelength is 16. How to find this one? The first step we have to do here, what are the given information? The given information, as you see here, we have the frequency, which is 25 hertz, the wavelength, which is 16 meter, actually here. So depending on this information, I want to use the formula that has a frequency and wavelength together. So what is the formula? Wave speed equals what? Frequency times wavelength. Let's write now the numbers. The frequency here, which is 25, times what? 25 hertz, times wavelength. What is the wavelength? The wavelength, which is 16. The answer of it, which is equals 400, but for this one, (25) times 16, 400 watt, it should be meter per second. Sorry for this, but this one should be 400 meter per second. Don't forget, we have to write the formula. This is it takes like 1 point to write the numbers, another 1 point, and the final answer with the unit, another 1 point. Okay, I'll give you another example. I'm going to solve another example with you. Example number 2 here. For example number 2, if the wave speed is 40 meter per second, okay, and the wavelength is 5 meter. Okay, find the frequency. Let's think about this one. Here the unknown is the frequency. What are the given information? I have the wave speed and I have what? I have the wave speed and I have the wavelength. So I can find now, we can use this formula. as you know, which is wave speed equals what? Equals frequency times what? Times wavelength. Okay, what is the wave speed is given, which is 40, equals the frequency is given, no, it's unknown. So here the frequency, which is unknown, times the wavelength is given is how much? The wavelength is given, which is 5. How can I solve this one? I have to divide here over 5, so they will be cancelled, and over 5 here. So it's gonna be at the end, the frequency is equals what? 40 divided by 5, which is equal to 8. So frequency equals what? 8. What is the unit of frequency? Which is hertz. Don't forget. Okay? This is the answer for this example. So this is it for today. I'm going to solve more questions with you, more examples with you. Study these formulas, study these examples, and try to solve the questions on page 23. You have questions on page 23. You have like a table, and you have different numbers of wavelength, frequency, and wave speed, and try to solve this table. If you have any question, you can send me your questions. Thank you for listening.